Hey guys, welcome to Muscle Nerds. Luke and Zoe here, and today Luke is going to talk to us about N.E.A.T.
That's neat.
It is neat.
So N.E.A.T, what is N.E.A.T? N.E.A.T is non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Which means?
Which it's basically when you look at your total daily energy expenditure, it can take up roughly, anywhere from 10 to 20% of your daily activity. Some people even more than that if they're super active.
Yeah, okay. So it's basically just the movement you make.
Yeah, basically
in your day-to-day.
Fidgeting, walking, anything that's not related to exercise.
Okay.
Right? And that's one of the issues when people go on a long-term diet is they start reducing N.E.A.T instinctively. So the body's going to start doing that in a metabolic compensatory pattern. Is that a word, compensatory?
It is now.
It is now. So in order to save energy, your body will naturally stop wanting to fidget and walk and things like that. And so it's super important when people are trying to lose weight that they keep that N.E.A.T up, which means that they need to, the easiest way to do it is to track your steps.
Is there a correlation between the body wanting to lower N.E.A.T and then obviously your energy levels? So is that kind of a way the body will make you stop doing as much N.E.A.T by lowering your desire to want to do N.E.A.T?
Correct. It makes you end up getting more fatigued, and your brain basically says, I need to conserve energy because I don't have enough energy coming in. Right. So it does this in a few ways. One is lowering adaptive thermogenesis, which is another part of your metabolism, which is what regulates how much heat you create. So people who go on long-term diets stop creating heat, and they start moving most of that to ATP production or energy production.
Got it.
But in order to save even more energy, your body will start naturally wanting to lay around and do nothing. So they've done some studies on this. Probably the longest term study was, I think it was 421 or 426 people. And they did a meta-analysis of a few different studies. This was one of the largest ones. So they separated people into 3 different groups, and they found that the people that were most active and did most of the exercise, most of the non-exercise activity, they ended up eating a lot more than the other 2 groups, which is
less.
What's that? They did less, right? Yeah. Which makes sense. You do more, you're going to eat more.
Yeah.
Then they had we won't talk about the middle group, we'll just talk about the lower group. The group that had the least amount of activity, maximal voluntary exercise and walking a day, they also had an insatiable appetite. So they also ate more. The difference being that people that didn't get enough N.E.A.T made poor decisions in what they were going to eat. They felt less satisfied, so their satiety went down. They were constantly hungry. They tended to overeat at meals, and they tended to make bad choices in where they were eating a lot more sweet and savory food. So those people, for whatever reason, they're looking for calories somewhere. And what they did during the study, they said, okay, what is the minimum effective dose? What's the minimum amount of N.E.A.T that I need to get daily to regulate my hypothalamus and regulate food volume, food satiety, appetite, and things like that. And they found that it was around 7,116 steps a day.
Specific.
It's very specific. So what they found was that was the minimum amount to keep your weight or keep people from gaining a lot of weight over time. And it mainly works through not really expending calories, but controlling hypothalamic impulse. So controlling your desire to eat high caloric foods and things like that.
So it's just like with everything, you're sending a message to yourself by what you do or don't do.
So the hypothalamus is going to get feedback from the peripheral system, right? And when you're doing dumb shit like chronically undereating and you have poor nutrition, the hypothalamus is going to try to get those calories from somewhere. So it starts lowering down your activity levels so that it can conserve some energy. And
increasing your hunger.
Or your hunger,
whether
right?
that comes in forms of cravings or
exactly. And so a lot of people are talking about N.E.A.T now. They didn't used to because it's not a sexy thing to talk about. No. Now everybody's talking about it, but the problem is, just like everything else, people like to appeal to extremes in our industry, and so people are doing 15,000 steps, 20,000 steps, 25,000 steps.
So if 7,116 works,
50,000 steps must be better. And the main effect of getting your N.E.A.T up is you're not really trying to maximize your walking, right? You're trying to keep it from dropping, right? So it's probably a better idea to get the minimum effective dose or maybe a little bit more, and then utilize the rest of the time to do extra conditioning or an extra weight training workout, or do something else, or some even active rest, going out and playing basketball or swimming or something that's a little more fun. When you look at walking, I'm a big fan of walking, but up to a certain point, it's not a very economical way to chase calories. When you look at it, it takes about 10 minutes to walk 1,000 steps. So if we look at, say, we look at 7,200 calories a day, give or take, or 50,400 over the course of a week.
Calories or steps?
I mean steps, sorry. That's already, you know, 72 to 80 minutes a day.
Yeah.
So people don't have time to go out and walk 20,000 steps. I mean, you're asking somebody to walk 3.5 hours to try to keep their NEAT up, when you could do things that actually give you better adaptations and burn more calories by increasing the intensity and having to do extra conditioning work.
And these 7,200, that is just inclusive of the steps you would take just throughout your day normally.
Yeah.
So it's not specifically going for a walk to get exactly walking for 7,200 steps and then you're done. It's take into consideration all the steps you do throughout your day,
right,
which surprisingly is super low with a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the people who can afford training. If you look at a tradie who's working a jackhammer all day, he doesn't need any NEAT. You look at a personal trainer, you don't have to track their NEAT because they're on their feet all day. But when you look at office workers, it's a good idea, because some of these people, they'll walk 1,500 to maybe 2,500 steps a day. And it's realistically speaking, they need to make up the rest of that by targeted things. And you can do a lot of things. Take the stairs. You know, if you're on the 4th floor of an office building, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Park at the end of the parking lot. It's little things like that that matter.
Add up.
You know, like our grocery stores right down the road, if we don't have to do a lot of like big shopping, we just walk there and back, and the steps will add up, but you don't need to. There's a lot of people talking about periodizing your NEAT and getting in the most amount of NEAT, but again, it's not economical to do that. If we focus on the lowest effective dose, maybe, you know, 7,200, 8,000 steps a day, that's pretty realistic in people's grasp. And then parlaying the rest of that time that you would be doing into doing something that's probably more fun, less monotonous.
More economical.
And more economical, that actually burns more calories and gives you the adaptations you're looking for.
So where did the 10,000 steps a day come from?
That's a very good question. I didn't know you were going to ask me that, but I'm glad. So actually,
I know you know the answer.
the 10,000 steps is actually a made-up number. So I think it was in the 50s or 60s, a Japanese guy created the pedometer. And so in order to sell them, they just made up a nice round number, and 10,000 steps sounded like a really good number. There's
marketing.
There's no real research on it.
That's actually a very good point for a whole nother video, is marketing. Like, be careful of what you believe, because a lot of it
The majority of the fitness industry is a lot of marketing and not a lot of science. So, you know, people are super time poor. The reason people are coming to get trained is because their health is fucked, because they're time poor and they don't prioritize their health. They prioritize material things and money. And at the end of the day, the only thing you really have is your health, or you don't have. So when we start looking at it in a program design standpoint, we want to track the number of steps. So let's say I have an office worker who's getting 3,000 steps a day, and I can track this through an Apple Watch or an iPhone or an Android or whatever you have. There's plenty of, most of these will automatically calculate that anyways. Find out where they're at. If they're at 3,500 steps, even moving to 4,500 steps, that's a challenge for a lot of people. Start working on increasing that, but increase it to the lowest effective dose, whether that's 8,000 or 10,000, but we certainly don't need people to be walking for 3 hours a day. Now, I will admit, when I met you and I was super shredded, and then I got fat after we met, I was
relationship comfortable.
I was in damn good shape, and I had also just when I met you, I had just spent a couple of months in Europe where I was walking everywhere, but I had plenty of time to walk. Right, and I walk a lot when I lecture.
Well, that's the thing. Like, to walk for leisure is different to walk, putting pressure on yourself to have to walk.
Yeah.
So the last thing you want to do is just add another stressor or add another thing to your client to say, fuck, I've got to get out and I've got to walk. I don't even have time, but my God, I have to walk.
If you tell your client they have to walk, well, you're walking 10,000 steps, I need you to walk 18,000, right? This next phase, they're gonna go, get fucked. That's the last thing they wanna do, is spend another 80 minutes on top of what they're already doing, and lifting weights, and doing their conditioning, and meal prep, and trying to find time to sleep. When the fuck are you gonna sleep if you're walking 3 hours a day, and training an hour a day, and doing all this other stuff? So, you know, if you have the time and you can do a lot of walking, great, that's fantastic, but it's just not practical for the majority of people who are coming to us for training. So work on the lowest effective dose, utilize that extra time. If you have extra time, utilize it to do things that are gonna have bigger return on investment, which more walking is not.
Right, and just really quickly, you can take that 7,200 steps a day, calculate it out over the week, and then you can just say, just hit 50,000 a week. Instead of having that pressure, because there might be a day where they...
50,400. It's on, I wrote it over there.
It's also 7,116. So
that's true. But
so yes, so if you have a day, if the client has a day where they only get in 2,000 or 3,000, it's okay because they can kind of catch up on the weekend.
Right, and you know, here's the thing: you're gonna have days. If let's say you have a guy that's in meetings for 12 hours a day and he's sitting at a desk, he's not gonna have time to go out and do the walking. So if you tell him that he has to hit 7,200 a day, and there's 2 days in a week he hits 5,000, he's gonna feel defeated. That's going to wreck his results. If you tell him, well, don't worry, make it up over the weekend, cool, he can go take a walk with his family or do whatever, and then he has a measure of success. Because if you make him micromanage and focus on day to day, if he messes a couple of those days up, what happens when people mess up their programs?
We know what Gen Pop do.
We know.
Fuck it, starting again.
You screw up one meal, fuck it. The rest, I'll start over on Monday. And then you just screw up the rest of the week. You just got to get back on the horse and keep going.